All right, let's dive into something really cool today, where farming, tech, and smart business all come together. We're going to figure out how greenhouses can slash their single biggest operating cost. I'm talking about energy, and get a whole lot smarter in the process. You know, it's a question that really gets you thinking. We all want fresh, local food all year round, right? Even when it's absolutely freezing outside. Well, being able to create the perfect environment for a plant, no matter the weather, is an incredible piece of engineering. And yep, you guessed it, the answer is the greenhouse. These amazing structures basically let us tell the seasons to take a hike. But trying to create a perfect summer day inside a glass box when it's below zero outside, that doesn't come cheap. It takes a staggering amount of energy. Okay, so let's break it down. When you actually look at where all that energy is going, one thing just completely dominates the chart. Sure, lighting and ventilation use power, but heating? It is the undisputed heavyweight champion of energy consumption. For any grower in a cold climate, it's the monster on their monthly bill. So that's the multi-million-dollar question for the entire industry, isn't it? How do you keep your plants perfectly happy without watching all your profits just evaporate into thin air? Well, it turns out there's a really smart step-by-step strategy to do just that. And that strategy is called the energy pyramid. I want you to think of it like a roadmap. You don't start a huge project by tackling the hardest part first, right? No, you start with the basics and build from there. It's all about getting the biggest bang for your buck, starting from the ground up. And here's exactly how that pyramid gets built. First, you analyze what you're using. Then you conserve, you plug all the simple leaks. After that, you start upgrading to more efficient tech. And only then, way at the top, do you think about renewables. Because think about it, you don't want to install thousands of dollars of solar panels just to power a leaky, inefficient system. You got to build on a strong foundation. So let's start at the base, conservation. This is all about the low-hanging fruit. We're talking about simple actions that cost little to nothing, but can have a huge impact on your bills. These are the easy wins, the no-brainers. And this is exactly the kind of stuff we're talking about. Sealing a leaky door? That's just like weather stripping your own house. Putting some foam insulation in the ground? That stops heat from literally seeping out. And get this, even just cleaning your light fixtures can give you more light without using a single extra watt of power. It's all about building smart habits. This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? The best energy-saving tool you have is your grain and a good process. It's about building a culture where you just don't waste energy. Period. Okay, so once you've plugged all the leaks, it's time to move up the pyramid and look at the gear itself. This is where things get really interesting. This is about investing in tech that does the same job or an even better one while using way less energy. And what's just incredible here is the return on investment. Just look at those payback periods. Root zone heating, that's where you warm the plant's roots instead of the whole building. It pays for itself in as little as 1 year. But the absolute star of the show here, it's got to be the thermal curtains. The potential savings are huge, and the payback is super fast. 60%. Just let that sink in for a second. By installing thermal curtains, you could cut your single biggest expense by more than half. For any business, that is an absolute game changer. And the idea behind them is brilliantly simple. At night, this special insulating curtain gets drawn across the ceiling. It acts just like a blanket for the greenhouse. It traps a layer of air, and just as importantly, it makes the space you need to heat way, way smaller. It's basically like putting a lid on a pot to keep it warm. It's one of the most effective upgrades out there. Now, after heating, lighting is the next big energy hog, and the tech here has gone through a total revolution. We're talking about moving from the old school workhorses, the high-pressure sodium or HPS lights, to modern LEDs. Not only are LEDs up to 55% more efficient, they also run cooler, and this is the really cool part, you can tune the light spectrum to give each crop exactly the kind of light it loves. So, the way we measure this is with a metric called photosynthetic photon efficacy, or PPE. Honestly, you can just think of it like the miles per gallon for a grow light. An old HPS light might have a PPE of around 1.7. A new high-end LED, it can hit 3.7. That means it's producing more than double the useful light for the exact same amount of electricity. That's just incredible efficiency. Okay, so that's all the theory, but does this stuff actually work in the real world? Does it all add up? Well, let's take a look at a case study from the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority to find out. So the subject was a pretty typical small to medium-sized farm, a greenhouse about 2,100 square feet, growing produce all year long in a pretty cold climate. It was the perfect test case for these energy-saving ideas. So an energy audit came back with 3 big recommendations. And just look at these numbers. The thermal curtain, there it is again, provides the biggest annual savings by far, over $1,500, and pays for itself in just 3.5 years. That's an amazing return. Now compare that to the pellet boiler. Yeah, it saves money, but that high upfront cost means it takes a whopping 18 years to pay back. This shows exactly why that pyramid strategy is so critical. You go for the quick wins first. And here is the bottom line, the long-term result of doing all of this. The initial investment was a little over $16,000. Okay, not cheap. But over 10 years, the savings on their energy bill added up to $24,000. That's a net gain of over $7,000. The upgrades didn't just pay for themselves, they literally became a new profit center for the farm. And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. After less than 7 years, this greenhouse is putting an extra $2,400 in pure profit onto its bottom line, year after year after year, all from just being smarter about energy. And that really brings us to the main takeaway here. Yes, all these upgrades are fantastic for the environment. But this is not just about being green. For a greenhouse grower, this is one of the most powerful and direct business strategies you can use to become more profitable and more resilient. Which kind of leaves us with one last big thought. We've just seen how one single greenhouse can totally transform its energy use and its finances. Now, imagine scaling that up. Imagine that level of intelligence and efficiency across our entire food system. If our farms can do this, what does that unlock for the future of our food, the future of our cities, and the health of our planet?